Making personal connections. Hi, I'm Brian Pombo. Welcome back to Brian J. Pombo Live. I want to talk a little bit about a huge way to be able to make personal connections. And it's going to revolve around this story from last Saturday. I got to go to my very first crush event. You see a little tasting glass here. I'll tell you a little bit more about that event in a second. I got to go to my very first one. Now, they haven't had this for 3 years. This is an annual event, meant to be annual, but because of COVID and all that jazz, it didn't happen for 3 years. But they put it on again. They brought it back and for 2023. So it's a lot of fun. It's a very interesting event. What it is, it's a fundraiser for charities, local charities that help families and children locally. And so it helps a handful of different charities, and it does very well. Okay, and it was tough coming back after a long period of time. A lot of the people that were originally involved weren't able to help out this year, and so you had a lot of newcomers, including myself, that were helping out in the process. And so it was a very interesting event. I was conflicted because I normally have a business event that I go to on that Saturday. Wasn't able to make that one because I had signed up to help out with this early on when originally signing up with Rotary last year. So this was a very new event. I don't normally take part in charity events. In fact, I haven't done any type of fundraising event for a number of years that I recall, at least. So it's it brings back a lot of old memories of doing fundraising events years and years past. But it's one of these things where you bring everybody together and you bring a whole lot of wineries, breweries, which we have a whole lot of around here, and fabulous restaurants. You bring them all in together in a relatively small room. You know, we have a small town, so it's not that big a deal, but relatively small room. Get them all in one room and kind of lay out a whole bunch of things for people to taste. And if you have enough tasting going on, you're getting pretty much a meal out of it, okay? And so they have that all spread out, and everybody is donating something. They're donating their time, they're donating their food and wine and all these things. That they're putting this out there in order to get attention, but also in order to raise money. At the same time, they had a raffle where they had a bunch of things that were donated in the middle, and then people can take part by purchasing raffle tickets. You purchase to get into the door to come to the event. There were only 300 tickets sold, so it was a pretty cool event. I was told that they may not have had as large of a crowd as they had in years past, but everyone I talked to had a good time, so that was pretty worthwhile. Let me tell you how this has to do with making connections. Okay, one thing, I got involved with this organization knowing that they do events like this and activities that are very much either in fundraising or volunteering or in giving something out to others. And it was something that I was interested in. It was something that I know that people who are successful in the area do these type of things. So I wanted to get involved, to get to meet these people. It gives me a chance to network and make connections with people. It also gives me a chance to be out there in a way that I don't naturally have an inclination toward. I'm a task-oriented, outgoing personality. So I'm outgoing, but only when it comes to work. And that oftentimes only comes to business and so forth. And so putting myself out there in a completely different way than I have really since I was young is different, and it's very cool. The connections I was able to make at this event were very intriguing because I hadn't experienced this type of thing for a long time. When you get a bunch of people together putting something on, especially if you're kind of in an underdog mode like we were bringing something back that hadn't been around for a while. We were doing it in a different way, in a lot of ways that had never been done before. We were attempting to get everyone together on a day where there was ended up being a huge snowstorm that came through. Not as big as we thought it had potential to be, but enough to where people were scared that no one was going to show up, including a lot of the vendors. So having all that going, all that weight on you, it got pretty heavy and hairy toward the end. But that pulled the group of people that put this together. It pulled us all together, and it put trust on each other and be able to see, who can handle that pressure, and oftentimes who couldn't. Now I can't think of anybody that couldn't in this situation, but you can see how that can happen in some cases, especially when you're dealing with a volunteer event. People don't need to be there. They're not getting, in most cases, a lot of these people are not getting paid to be there. But it was a very cool opportunity, and you get to see a lot from people. You get to get a lot of respect off of that. Just kind of automatic. It's not that you're going for that necessarily, but it comes with the territory. You're out there. You're obviously a volunteer. I had a Rotary shirt on and everything, so it was clear that I was part of kind of the overall staff putting it on. And just being out there, I got to see people. Here's an interesting dynamic. I brought this up to a couple people. I've talked about other organizations that you can get involved with in your local area. Another one, especially if you're in business or you're in some type of cause, I highly recommend getting involved with the Chamber of Commerce. And it's a huge deal because of the people you meet there. Sometimes it's not even what happens at those meetings. We have a meeting called greeters. I've heard them called mixers and so forth, where you go on a weekly basis and you just kind of meet people and everyone gets a chance to talk, type of thing, and kind of mix it up. I've been to ones before in other places that really, it's not, you don't have enough time to really get to know anybody. But for some reason that leads to other things and leads to other things. So for example, a lot of the people that I wouldn't necessarily know that well at Chamber of Commerce, I see them at this event, and it's like we're old friends. Because you take us out of one environment and plop us into another, and all of a sudden, hey, I may not know everybody else, but I know that face, I know that person. And so people come up and give you hugs and stuff like that. It's really cool. It's really cool to be in a situation like this, where you can see people on many different levels. It helps that it's a relatively small town. So if you have a small area, don't think that this precludes you from doing stuff like this. In fact, it's actually kind of helpful. Larger areas, sometimes you have to get within the sub neighborhoods and sub areas and kind of build that up first. Build your connections in those areas. This is how you make personal connections. It's one at a time, person to person. You're not gonna make it with everybody. You're not gonna gel with everybody. But getting known and knowing people really helps out with anything you're looking to do in life, because you'll be able to kind of build up. We used to say building up a Rolodex, because they used to have those little there's a little roller that you'd keep cards on that had everybody's personal info, and it would be organized by alphabet. And so you build up this contact source and nowadays it's digital. A whole lot of what we do is digital. You get people on LinkedIn and Facebook. That alone is incredible, let alone all the other social media that's out there. So it's a way to be able to keep in touch with people, and also just keeping people in your phone. It's fabulous. Get out there. That's the main message. Get out there and make personal connections. You'll be happy you did. Even if you're a survivalist that doesn't want to talk to anybody, it's in your best interest to know the people in your area. It'll be helpful if times ever get tough, because I know we have a lot of people that come from that perspective around here. So I just wanted to throw that out there for someone who thinks they're on the complete opposite end of networking. It's necessary. So go check out my training all on content marketing, contentmarketingquestion.com. That's all I have for tonight. You have a good one. We'll see you next time. In the meantime, get out there and let the magic happen.